Have you ever felt that pull? That sudden, almost irresistible urge to jump on a hot stock just because everyone's talking about it? Or, on the flip side, that panic to sell everything when the market dips? Well, today we're going to dig into exactly why that happens. And believe it or not, the answer is buried deep, deep in our evolutionary past.
I mean, you see it all the time in the markets, right? A sudden buying frenzy over here, a mass panic sell over there. So, what's really pulling the strings? What's that powerful force that makes us instinctively follow the herd, even when a little voice in the back of our head is screaming, "Don't do it"?
You know, it's easy to just write it off as simple greed or fear, but it turns out the answer is so much deeper than that. This behavior, it's rooted in a fundamental survival strategy, something that's been hardwired into our brains for millions, and I mean millions of years.
All right, so to really understand why we have this deep compulsion to copy each other, we've got to rewind the clock. And I mean way, way back. We need to go back to the world our brains were actually designed for. A world where, let's be honest, the stakes were infinitely higher than anything you'll see on a trading floor.
Okay, just try to picture the world our ancestors lived in. It was incredibly complex and just flat out risky. We're talking about harsh living conditions, the constant, and I mean constant threat from predators, not to mention navigating super tricky group dynamics. And on top of all that, we weren't the fastest or the strongest animals out there, not by a long shot. Cooperation was everything, and a single bad decision, phew, it could be fatal, not just for you, but for your whole group.
So in that kind of chaotic world, with almost no time and very little information, do you think learning by trial and error was a good idea? No way! It wasn't just slow, it was deadly. You couldn't afford to be the guy who figured out which berries were poisonous by, eating them. You needed a shortcut, a big one.
And this leads us to the absolute core survival principle. One of our sources puts it so brilliantly it's almost poetic. You copy the alive people, and that increases your chances to be alive. It's that simple. It's brutally simple because it had to be brutally effective.
And that kind of changes how you think about copying, doesn't it? It's not just some mindless imitation. It's about cloning a proven, successful strategy. And here's the genius part. You don't even need to understand why it works. You just see what works, you adopt it, and you do it fast. Survival 101.
Okay, so this whole copying strategy, it wasn't just some abstract, good idea. Our brains literally evolved specific biological hardware to make it our default setting. It's automatic, it's built in.
And this is where we meet something called mirror neurons. And trust me, these things are absolutely fascinating. They're these specialized brain cells that fire not only when we do an action ourselves, but also when we just watch someone else do the very same thing. It's a massive, massive shortcut for learning. It's basically the brain's built-in see it, feel it, do it system. And once you know about them, you see these things in action everywhere. Seriously, think about it. It's why laughter is so contagious, right? You hear someone laugh, your mirror neurons fire up, and bam, you feel the urge to laugh too. It's why a tiny baby will smile back at you when you smile at them. And it's how you can walk into a room and just feel the tension or the excitement of a crowd. We are literally, biologically hardwired to sync up with each other. Now just let this sink in for a second. When you perform an action, say picking up a cup, a specific set of neurons fire in your brain. Okay, simple enough. But when you just watch someone else pick up that same cup, your brain fires the exact same neurons, as if you were doing it yourself. That's incredible. It means that on a deep neural level, the line between watching and doing is ridiculously thin.
So, here's where the glitch in the matrix happens. What happens when you take this ancient survival software, this operating system that was perfectly designed for the dangers of the savannah, and you try to run it in the totally artificial modern world of the financial markets?
Well, basically, our brains get tricked. The signals get all mixed up. That ancient threat detector that was looking for a lion in the grass, now it's looking at a scary red arrow on a trading chart and getting the same alarm bells. The information source isn't the trusted actions of your tribe anymore. It's this nonstop, overwhelming flood of news tickers and social media. And that old, reliable fight-or-flight response? Yeah, that gets twisted into fear of missing out or panic sell everything. And that's exactly why this mismatch can be so dangerous for a trader. Our brains are hardwired to see a market crash and treat it like a buffalo stampede. The gut instinct, that ancient programming, just screams, run with the herd. It doesn't tell you to, pause, take a deep breath, and analyze the fundamentals. And that's why fighting that urge, going against the crowd, can feel almost physically painful. But look, it's not all bad news. The story doesn't just end there, with us being helpless slaves to our ancient instincts. What's really cool is that the source material suggests this deep urge to copy isn't just a bug in our system. It's actually a feature. It's the foundation we need to build real intelligence on top of.
Okay, think about it like this. Copying is basically the pre-training for our brain's model of the world. You know how an AI model gets fed a gigantic data set to learn the basics? Well, that's what our long childhoods are for. We spend all that time just copying everything we see. Actions, language, emotions, social cues. We're building this massive internal library of general knowledge and skills.
So, the big takeaway here is that copying gives us the essential vocabulary, the basic assumptions, the raw material we need before we can even begin to do any higher-level independent thinking. The source puts it perfectly. It's the scaffolding for your IQ. You just can't build a skyscraper without putting up all that scaffolding first, right? Same idea.
And what this does is it lays out a clear path to developing real intelligence, especially in a super complex field like trading. So, step 1 is to copy. You absorb the proven strategies, you learn the ropes, you build that foundational model of how things work. Then comes step 2, analyze. This is where you start to question that model. You really dig in to understand why it works. But the final and most crucial part is step 3, adapt. This is where the magic happens. This is where you develop the wisdom to recognize when the model is breaking down, when the old rules just don't apply anymore, and you need a totally new approach.
So just understanding this deep-seated instinct, that alone gives you a huge edge. It lets you hit the pause button. It helps you tell the difference between a real, genuine threat that maybe does require you to run with the herd and a false alarm that's just being fueled by collective panic. So now you get it. You understand why the herd runs. The real question left for you is, how will you decide when to run with it and when to stand your ground?